Hey everyone, Fast Eddie here, and this video is going to be about emergency braking and first-hand perspective of what I'm actually doing with the front brake. So first thing to consider, however the front brake is, right, you want it to be where your elbow, your wrist, and your fingers is all in a straight line. You don't want to have to reach down for the lever or have to reach up and go really high for the lever, so it needs to be straight and flat. So you can adjust your lever moving it up and down to where it's a straight line. That's very important. Next thing, if you can see over here, it's kind of hidden behind the plastic, but right here there's a little dial. So I have it on setting number 2, but it goes from 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll bring the brake lever closer or farther away. There's a couple things why you'd want to adjust that. So that goes along with your fingers. If you want to use one finger to brake, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't matter. So let's say you only use 2 fingers to brake like I do, but you have the lever so close, when you go to squeeze the brake, your fingers get in the way and you won't be able to get to 100% maximum braking. So you can either push the lever, adjust the lever so it's farther away, or just add more fingers. So however you want to do it is up to you. It's totally your preference. Just make sure however many fingers you use, you are able to get to 100% braking force without your fingers being in the way. If your levers are unadjustable, then it might be a good idea to get different levers that are adjustable to bring them closer or further away. Plus, if you ever start the trail brake, like if I'm riding around in traffic, I just kind of rest my 2 fingers up on here and I don't have to reach really far to get to the lever. And they're not so close where I'm just always on it as well. So it's just a happy medium you're gonna have to find. So whenever I'm in traffic or lane splitting, I'm just kind of resting them on top, like this. And of course, when I'm trail braking, I'm just on and off the brakes very slowly. And I just leave my fingers there as well. So for emergency braking, the technique is, remember, most of the power is in the front brake. So when you're cruising, you're going 20 miles per hour, I'll be doing all the belts. So I'll start off white belt, I'll do it a couple times and I'll go up each one. So white belt is 20 miles per hour, less than 25 feet, you have to be able to stop. So you'll roll off the throttle, you'll reach up and you'll squeeze the front brake. Nothing is grabby, nothing is fast. So think about you're squeezing an orange. Just 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100%. You should get to 100% braking. How you do that depends on if you stop fast or if you crash. If you go 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 and do something fast, remember the front tire has a lot of braking power. The front brake and the front tire can provide a lot of grip if the load is gradually applied to the front tire, pushing the front tire really hard into the ground. So when you get on the brakes, your weight goes forward, the bike goes forward, all the weight pushes the front tire into the ground, providing all that grip. That's why it's 70% or more of all stopping power is in the front brake. So the front brake, you want to do more and more and more and more and more. So as the weight of the bike is all going up to the front, right? So the weight, so here's the bike, all the weight goes forward, the rear of the bike is less and less. There's less weight. So you can't just push down on the rear brake because it's going to start skidding very, very quickly because all the load is going to the front. So you want to start off with a little bit of pressure on the rear brake and then gradually taper off the rear brake. But with the front, it's the exact opposite. More and more and more. With the rear, it's less, less, less. So you can see my foot, and here's my hand. So as you're emergency braking, it's more and more and more and more and more front brake. At the same time, you're going less, 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 less. So you see that? So even if you try to do that right now, it's pretty hard because it's opposite with the same side of your body. So more and less, more or less. An easy way to think about it, the more you squeeze your front brake, the higher your toe gets. So that is the technique for emergency braking. Squeeze slowly, less rear brake. So I want to take off, I'll do a couple white belts, I'll do a couple blue, brown, I'll get all the way to black. So you get to see exactly what I'm doing, and I'll go from there. Check it out. Oh, one more thing, I'm going to take off my ABS. So I'm not going to have my ABS on during any of this. So one more thing to mention, I'm at the same lot where I already have the markings down on the ground in chalk. So that's all you need. You don't even need a piece of chalk. You can just get a stick or a tar snake or whatever it is and just start braking at a certain spot and then walk out 25 feet. So white belt is stopping less than 25 feet at 20 miles per hour. And the way to keep in mind, so whenever you get to your chalk line or whenever you start braking, imagine that's the starting point of an intersection and somebody's about to blow the red light. So this isn't normally coming to a stop sign braking. This is, holy crap, I need to stop. someone just blew a red light, there's a kid that jumped out in front of me, something like that. So it's, no kidding, emergency braking. Of course, if you're practicing this, make sure you have insanely good grip, you're fully geared up, and keep in mind, you jack this up, you could go flying over the handlebars, you could crash, so ride at your own risk. You are responsible for your own safety. So I got to 20 miles per hour. Once I got to the line, rolled off, and then just squeezed the brake. Slow, steady squeeze. I don't know if you could see it if I roll up a little bit. So there's the 25-foot mark. So I was definitely less than 25 feet at 20 miles per hour. And to make sure I'm actually at 20 miles per hour, I start from pretty far back and I get up to 20 miles per hour and I put it on cruise control, just to make sure I'm not cheating by starting to brake early. Otherwise, none of this measuring makes sense. So I'll go back to it again. White belt. So I'm stopping just past 18 feet, maybe I'm at 20, 21 feet, so that's good enough for white belt. Another thing to keep in mind, for white belt, I wasn't doing anything with my legs. I'm just, make sure you're looking straight ahead. Until you come to a dead stop, you should be looking straight, your arms are loose. But once you start braking faster, more of your weight starts going forward. So now going into blue, brown, and black, the more you squeeze the front brake, right, nice steady squeeze, I recommend squeezing the tank as well, so your upper body doesn't go flying forward and so your arms stay loose. You should be able to play the piano and stay loose even during emergency braking, because the only thing required is squeezing the brake. Tensing up your shoulders does nothing to help you stop at all. So try to keep your upper body relaxed by squeezing the tank while you're braking. So I'll do white belt one more time. Again, once your front tire crosses the chalk line, roll off the throttle. Really important you do that, and squeeze the brake. Another thing to keep in mind, I'm sure you're probably thinking right now, oh, I'd love to have a GoPro from the side to actually watch the bike coming down. We'll only have one GoPro, and it's the GoPro Hero 5 Black. So on Amazon, it's like 250 bucks. Feel free to buy me one and send it to me, and I'll make split screen and all kinds of craziness. Until then, the idea of this is just to give you a better understanding, but the main point is for you to go do it yourself. Go practice yourself. All right, blue belt. Blue belt is 20 miles per hour, stopping less than 18 feet. So to stop even quicker, I'm just gonna have to apply a little bit more front brake, probably in the middle of the stop. So it's smooth braking, right? But maybe I'll just go a little bit quicker. So not just 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 90, 100. Maybe for blue belt, I'll go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 90, 100. Just a little bit quicker, a little bit quicker. Check it out. Once I get to the line, so I'm imagining that's the intersection, and once my front tire crosses the chalk line, then a car just jumped out in front of me. So rolling off and squeezing the brake. I'm not grabbing. Or if you do anything fast with your hands, you grab the brake, the bike will react just as fast. So it's just a squeezing the brake. Another thing to keep in mind, I'm staying in first gear. You can practice going to second gear, pulling the clutch, downshifting. The main point is don't hit the car. So focus first on learning how to stop. And then eventually you want to practice this in second gear and downshifting all at the same time. Great, do all that stuff. It's really beneficial to be in first gear whenever you come to a stop, because the stupid behind you isn't stopping, but you just stop fast. You have to also be able to take off. That's why it's important to learn how to stop fast and take off fast. But I'm not going to show you both of those techniques together. You have to learn them separately, and then you can practice combining them. All right, blue belt one more time. The reason I took off my hand right there is just to show you that I'm on cruise control at 20 miles per hour. So there you go, roll up the throttle, squeeze the brake. So that's blue belt. Next is brown belt, and that's stopping less than 18 feet. Again, the same distance, but now you're going 25 miles per hour. Again, nothing changes. No matter what speed you're going, the technique is always the same. More with the front, less with the rear. Squeeze the tank so you don't go, so your body doesn't go flying forward. Here we go, brown belt. So right here with the camera, that's 15, and then my front tire is another couple feet, so it's just about slightly less than 18. So again, once you get to the line, you reach up and you squeeze the brake. Remember, the weight needs to go forward, pushing the front tire really hard into the ground in order to provide that grip. So if you go too fast too soon, there's not enough weight on the tire and you could low side, and that's when the front tire gives way. Here we go, brown belt one more time. Go up the throttle, squeeze the brake. Emergency braking. It's not a slow, steady squeeze, right? That's the technique, but the faster you want to stop, the faster you're gonna have that squeeze going on. But it's nothing grabby. It's nothing jerky. It's a squeeze on the brake. Again, remember, I took the ABS off, so I'm practicing with the ABS off. If you have ABS and the rear tire, or you're engaging the rear ABS, click, 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 that's an indication. You could physically feel the rear brake pulse if you're engaging the ABS, and you could hear it. So that just tells you less rear brake. That's the biggest common problem people do when they try this. They stomp way too hard on the rear brake and they skid, and they don't use enough front brake. Most people do this. They get on the front brake a little bit, get to about 60%, and then stop. And then hopefully they will stop eventually, but they can stop a lot faster if they actually keep on squeezing the brake to get to 100%. How you do that, of course, is the technique, and that's the most important thing over everything. So again, more, less. So now black belt is 25 miles per hour, 15 feet or less. Here we go. So if you notice that time, well, you may have noticed or you may have heard, I'm getting on the brake so much, once I hit the line, bam, I reach up and I squeeze the brake really, really hard. There's so much weight transfer, the rear tire actually came off the ground. I did a tiny little stoppie. So Lee Parks explains this really good in Total Control Edition 2. If you have like a 1 foot high stoppie at the end of the stop, that can save you a couple feet of forward momentum, because the energy has to go somewhere. So either it's going to go forward, or if the rear tire comes up a tiny little bit, the energy now went up instead of going forward. It's in the braking chapter of Total Control Edition 2. I highly recommend reading that. So for me to do black belt on this bike, I'm braking so much so quickly, all the energy, I did a tiny little stop beat at the very end. And if that happens, the rear tire should be spinning because you're going less rear brake. And if the tire's off the ground, why do you need to be pushing the rear brake at all? So there's a demonstration of all the belts. So you can see with the front brake. So remember the first thing, raise or lower the lever so your elbow to your wrist. Like once you're riding around like this, you should just be able to push your fingers straight forward and have a straight line. You shouldn't have to reach up like this to grab the brake. You shouldn't have to reach down like that to grab the brake. It should be in a straight line. So adjust it so it's straight, adjust the closeness of it so you could get to 100% braking without hitting your fingers, or just add fingers, experiment with more fingers. Some bikes you may have to use 3 or 4 fingers because it's just such hard braking. I mean, this bike is an amazing bike. I have Brembo brakes, everything else. These brakes are really good. 2 fingers is all I need. Most sport bikes, 2 fingers is all you need. But you may have to add 3 or 4 if you have a Harley or something else with not as good of brakes. All depends. You just have to experiment with yourself. So I hope this made sense to you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And again, with my rear brake, since you're not looking at it, the only thing I'm doing, I'm starting off very light. My toes is barely on it, and then I taper off the rear brake. The exact opposite with the front. With the front, you go more. Rear brake is less. And that is the technique for street or in dirt. How do I know that? Well, in MotoVenture's Dirt First Level 2, Gary LaPlante, the guy who wrote How to Ride Off-Road Motorcycles, in Level 2 we do emergency braking, and it's the exact same technique. Squeeze the front brake and start off light and then go lighter with the rear brake. That is the technique for stopping fast. If you have a better way than doing that, I have never saw it in any book or any instruction or any course, so you can do what you want to do, but this is what I've learned in my experience. That is how you stop the fastest. So I hope it made sense. Feel free to comment, and thanks for watching. See you next time.